Hey, family, and welcome back to another segment here on GEMS podcast. With me today is a very special guest, Miss Andi Smiley. And yes, she is all smiles, y'all. But let me tell you a little bit more about my guest, Andi. And you already know me, Miss Genesis Amaris Kemp. It's your girl. So, Andi is the host of the podcast Friendly Podcast Guide, which gives you a synopsis of podcasts in about 10 minutes so listeners can figure out if that podcast is for them without having to listen to an entire episode. So you see, y'all, she's already being mindful. She is also a wife and mom of 3 littles, ages 5 and under. She started her podcast because being a mom can be super lonely sometimes, and podcasts helped her to feel like she was getting some adult conversations in her life while she was surrounded by small children. So she wanted to share her podcast knowledge with other moms that may be in a similar boat. So without further ado, let's welcome this mama of 3, amazing podcaster and super smiley firecracker, Andi Smiley.
Hello. Thank you. That's a fabulous. I've never been called a firecracker before, but I like it.
Well, I like to call people firecrackers because I'm a firecracker and I'm super bubbly. So what happens when one firecracker ignites another one? We just blow shit up.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Yes, let's do it.
So one way that we are going to embrace our bubbly personalities is I definitely want the audience to be able to connect with you in a fun and personal manner, Andi. So before we jump into the meat and potatoes, you could do A icebreaker, or B, rapid fire 10 question game. What are you in the mood for?
I think rapid fire questions sounds fun.
Okie dokie, here we go, y'all. And y'all know the song, so sing it along with me. We're playing rapid fire with Andi and Genesis. Do 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 do. Question number 1. Andi, what is your drink of choice? Coffee, tea, or something else?
Something else.
Ooh.
Probably my go-to is probably, this sounds a little silly, but like hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate in the morning. That's just like one of my favorites.
Ooh, that does sound good. Ooh. Okay, I don't want to digress. Question 2. Okay, you get 3 random acts of kindness per day. What are your 3 for today?
That I do or that someone does to me?
That you do.
Okay. I love to open doors for strangers. I love to leave notes in people's like windshields, like under their windshield wipers. And I just love to bake cookies and give them to my neighbors because then I get to eat them too.
Ooh. I love getting notes on your windshield, especially like if it's like a note that says something weird, and like I like to bring it home sometimes and show my husband, babe, look what this note says. Like, ooh, girl, you were rocking it or something.
I love that.
Question 3. What is one thing that makes Andi just smile and glow up?
I love to travel. Whenever I get to go anywhere new, even if it's just like a couple hours away, I am so happy. And my sweet partner, he gets dragged along and I'm just like walking along. I'll go anywhere. I don't have to get a bike. Like I can get anywhere quick and I am just happy as a clam.
Question 4. If you were in a dance party and no one was looking, but you were just embracing your flow, what music would you be dancing to?
Oh man. What type of music? Oh my
That
goodness.
type of
That's really
music or
hard.
genre, what gets you pumped up, Andi?
I'm kind of just like a pop rock, like whatever is like jamming on the radio. That's kind of my jam. Usually I feel like I'm pretty impressionable when it comes to that kind of stuff. Whatever's on and has a good beat, I'm all about it.
Question 5. Being a mama of 3 littles, are you the type of woman that's utilizing your kitchen to the max, or are you doing DoorDash, Grubhub, or Uber Eats because you're like, as long as the kids get fed?
right? Calories are calories. Truly, I married a cook. So I don't utilize the kitchen, but he does. So we don't really eat out all that often because what he cooks is usually better. So that's the way to go for us.
Question 6. What's your favorite color?
Orange all the way.
What type of orange? Is it like burnt orange, bright orange?
Bright orange or like sunset orange. They're kind of a tie, but it just kind of depends on my mood, I guess.
Question 7. If you had to interview any person on your podcast, past or present, who would it be?
Oh my goodness. Probably Brene Brown. I think she is amazing. And she has 2 podcasts right now, and I love both of them. And so I would probably try and get two podcast episodes out of one interview, talk to her about both of them.
Ooh, and this is now going to be a fun challenge. Since Brene Brown is actually present, she's still living, y'all. I challenge you to reach out to Brene Brown, whether it's her PR team or you slide in her DMs and tell her how much you admire her, how she can add value to your podcast and how you can add value to her, and see if she's open to doing a collaboration. Because what do you have to lose?
That's so true. I'll have to do that.
Do
I
you
love that
accept the
idea.
challenge?
I do accept.
Okie dokie. So now that you accepted the challenge, we have to put a date on it. So you will have 2 weeks or less to reach out to Brene Brown and let me know. And you have to screenshot it so I know you took the challenge.
Okay, I can do that. I'll have to
Okay.
do it. I'll get it done hopefully today.
Awesome.
Just get on it so I don't forget.
And screenshot me.
Yes.
Question 8. What is one thing you love about podcasting?
Oh my goodness, there is so much. One thing that I love about podcasting is that you can find a podcast on pretty much anything, and you can dive deep into almost any subject, from like walking to making your own podcast to books. Like, I just love that the world is so wide. The podcast world is so wide and has a podcast for anyone.
Question 9. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, probably flight. Then I don't have to buy tickets to travel to all the places that I want to go.
And question 10. It is our pass or play question. And here are the rules. If you pass, our roles are reversed and you get to ask me a question. If you choose to play, I ask one last question to wrap up rapid fire. So do you want to pass or play?
Sorry. I think I want to pass.
Okie dokie. What's your question?
My question is, what are you most looking forward to becoming a mom?
Oh my gosh. I think just holding the baby and just having that skin to skin, because so many other moms, when I asked the question, if you could go back in time and recreate a significant moment, they said, I would spend more time being present in the birth of my child. And I was like, oh, that is so cute. So I was like, I definitely don't want to like go through the moment too fast. I want to be present in the moment and just enjoy. But I did tell my husband, I want them to clean the baby up first before they put the baby on me.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Amazing. So thank you for playing Rapid Fire, Andi. Now let's jump into all things podcasting, because that is your lane, your jam. You talk about podcasting and it is your niche. And I love how you said that you do podcasting for moms, podcasting for stay-at-home parents, or just overall making a podcast, because sometimes people from the outside looking in, they're like, well, do you get paid? Or why you like doing podcasts, or what's so great about it. So let's start debunking this myth. How did you first get involved in podcasts, and what was your start ugly moment? Because we all have them.
Okay. Well, so I have 2 different starts, I guess. So I started listening to podcasts right after my son was born. I had to go back to work full time because my husband was in grad school and someone had to make money while he was in school. And it was a pretty boring job because I needed to be able to have flexible hours so that I could have a nanny come in the morning to hang out with my son. And then I could be there in the afternoon so that I could have time with him during the day. And so the job was boring, but I found podcasts, which made it much less boring. So that was my start into listening to podcasts, but making my podcast, that was, I had always wanted to start a podcast. Well, not always. Since I had started listening to podcasts, I was like, this is a party. I really like this. I want to start my own, but I had no idea what to talk about. And so I decided, I like to talk about podcasts. I like to recommend podcasts to other people. Why don't I make a podcast about that? So that's how that started. And my ugly moment starting the podcast was definitely, it probably took me a month to figure out how to just record my intro. It sounded so bad for so long. And I kept like showing it to other people and they were like, yeah, just keep trying. It was not great. So that was definitely my ugly moment, but I feel like I learned a lot and it sounds good now, which is all that really matters.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you said your intro was listening to podcasts and kind of just getting a feel for like what resonates with you. And then like once you got inundated within the podcasting space, you're like, I could do this myself. And then I like how you mentioned you had a lot of those ugly moments, like making an intro where people are like, it sounds good, but it just wasn't quite there yet. Or maybe their tone of voice or their facial expression or how they said it alluded to, it's not really that good.
Yes, but all of the above, all of those things happened while I was figuring all of that out.
And sometimes I tell people when you get involved in this podcasting space, you don't need to have like everything figured out. Just start and then you could perfect it later on. Like have those progression moments over the perfection moments. Because as long as you're making progress and people see you being authentic, and then they see how you went from, ground zero to where you are now, it shows like your commitment, it shows your drive, and it shows how you build upon that. And I think that's real. Like people could resonate with that because we've all had those moments. Like I just started with my cell phone, like when I started in November of 2020, and it was a very ugly moment. I was going through an ugly period in my life where I had lost my dad to medical negligence. And I was just doing solo episodes. I was like, I'm sick of these people telling me how I should feel about losing my dad when they are freaking franken fine because both of their parents are living. So you can't tell me you know how I feel if both of your parents are living and breathing. There's no way you know how I feel. And I tell people I was just real and raw, talking into the mic. Then I figured out the app that I was using had a web version. Then I took it to the web version. And then once I was in a good space mentally, then I started interviewing people. Because if I were to interview people when I first started, it would be like a show, y'all. It would just be like crap. And you just have to like give yourself grace and mercy. So like Andi, whenever you do your podcast, like whenever you started, after you got over the hurdle of the intro and you perfected your intro, did you do solo episodes or did you go into interview style episodes, or what does your structure look like?
So my very first episode is solo because I wanted people, I kind of did my podcast about my podcast. Like the first episode was an episode about the podcast itself so that people could know what to expect pretty much. So that's the only solo episode I have. Right now I just do interviews. I talk to podcast hosts mostly. Or if it's not, well, I guess, okay, sorry. I guess I do have solo episodes when I can't get a hold of the podcast host or they don't have time. Then I will play a clip from their show and then talk about it. But my favorites are when I get to interview podcast hosts and talk to them about why they started and what's their favorite episode. And we kind of get into the why behind their podcast and kind of some of the behind the scenes. And it is an absolute riot. I love it so, so much.
Amazing. So whenever you think about like just the blend between solo episodes and interview style, they're going to sound different. And I like to tell people when you do solo episodes, those should be your buffers in between your other interview episodes, where if there's something that has been weighing on your heart, just open up the podcast and talk into the mic, and don't make it feel like it's a chore. Make it feel like it's something that you enjoy, because if you're going to have a conversation with your girlfriend or your husband or someone important in your life about it, why not like put it on the podcast? Because you never know if someone else near, far, or across the world can benefit from what you have to say. So I always tell people, shoot your shot, because what do you have to lose? You're either gonna dunk it or you're gonna miss it, but hey, at least you shot the shot, right?
Definitely. I love that. Yes, I feel like podcasting helps us all to connect in a new way, and I absolutely love that. Take your shot. See if it lands. If it doesn't, try again later.
Like that song says, if first you don't succeed, you can dust yourself off and try again, try again. And I'm not a singer, y'all, so I'm not going to go into any more of that. So, right, your avatar, is your avatar for your podcast women as a whole, or parents as a whole, or just anyone within the podcasting space?
So I feel like anyone could probably benefit from it, but truly, I'm pretty specific on who I'm trying to reach. I'm trying to reach, in a sense, me 5 years ago when my baby was born. I feel like I was pretty lonely. I was looking for community. I was looking for adult conversation when I could not get it any other way. And podcasts kind of became that for me, but it was pretty overwhelming. There are a lot of podcasts out there, and trying to find one that I liked that kind of fit what I wanted was really difficult. And I feel like now I know enough different podcasts. I kind of get a feel for like the type from even just an intro. So I'm used to it now and I know what to look for. But at the time, it was really hard. So I feel like my avatar is pretty much like young moms who are stay at home, or they work from home, or they just don't get very much adult conversation. They feel lonely and they need somebody to talk to, or at least someone, or at least a conversation that they can feel a part of. So that's kind of my avatar.
Yeah, like that stimuli, something there that is stimulating them from a mental capacity, but also meeting them where they're at. Because if you're home all day with your kids and your partner is gone, it's like you only could talk to your kids, especially like baby talk. And some people don't really necessarily believe in talking uh, to babies via baby talk. And you just feel like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to somebody. But all the people that I know are either working or they're busy with their own things. So what am I going to do? So you need to find something that stimulates you to have that personal growth in your life, and just really have those abilities to kind of unplug in a sense.
Definitely. Well, and I feel like almost plug in to something else as well. Like unplug from your mom life for a minute and plug into like a funny conversation or an interesting conversation, or maybe it's just a story that you can get lost in while you're doing the dishes. Just something that's a little bit different from your everyday life.
Absolutely. And you mentioned intros. So you mentioned intros can either make or break if someone wants to pursue listening to a podcast. So, what makes a good intro within those first 10 minutes?
I would say what makes a good intro is something that catches me. So it has to be intriguing. You have to give me a reason for why you're making your podcast and why I should listen. Um, I feel like, and this might sound silly, but I feel like when there's good music that feels like it fits the vibe of the show, like they go together really well. I feel like that for me is like it's a good check mark in like the good column. Like that means you know what you're doing, you know who you're trying to talk to, and like you're ready for a good time. I don't know, like just if it's good, if it's also, I feel like if the intro is energetic, if that's what you're going for, or if it's calm, if that's what you're going for, like if it matches the vibe of what your show is going to be about, I feel like that's a big thing too. Cause I feel like if I'm looking for something calm to listen to after I've had like a rough day, or if I just need to like soothe myself a little bit, and I turn on a podcast that talks about meditation, but like the guy comes on and he's like, "Hey, we're so excited to be here today." And I'm like, that's not what I want right now. Like, so I'll probably switch to a different one, try a different one if it's not like the vibe doesn't match what I need or what I think that the podcast is going to be about.
Yeah. So is the intro, does it hook you? Does it curate with the mood that you're feeling? What's the tone of voice? Like, is it high pitch? Is it medium pitch? Is it low pitch? What's the diction like? What type of energy are they giving off in those first 10 minutes, and etc. But then another follow-up question behind that, Andi, has there ever been a time where you said, okay, let me just listen some more? Maybe there's a golden nugget where you kept listening, and once you got past the intro, you're like, okay, their intro wasn't that good, but their content is golden.
Truly. Yeah. Okay. So that happened more so when I didn't have as many options, if that makes sense. So early on, when I was like just going for any podcast, because I was like, I just need to be talking to someone, or like hearing something, having some stimuli. And I feel like, oh, now I can't even think of what it was called. It was a while ago, and I think they've stopped making it. But I do remember being like, well, I don't have anything else to listen to, so I guess I'll just listen to this. And after probably 20 minutes, I was laughing right along with them, and I was like, oh, okay, this is good. I like this one. It can go in the it can go in the good column.
And so the reason why I asked that question, it's because sometimes we're so quick to shut certain things down. And I feel like sometimes if we listen more, then we could realize it. But I would just definitely say cut it off at that 20-minute mark, or maybe even 15. Just push it a little bit out further, just in case that person was having a hard time with their intro. And like me, I didn't have an intro in the beginning when I started, but it wasn't until like I was making those progression steps where later on I realized I needed to have an intro. So now I have an intro and an outro, but I used my voice, and then I had another podcaster that we collaborated with company wise, and they put the music and the et cetera to make my intro sound a little bit more glamorous. But in the beginning, I was like, it either sticks or it doesn't, but this is what it is. Let me just jump into it. And I kind of just said something blurb. So I just wanted to just put that out there for any other podcasters that are interested in, starting a podcast, but they're like, I don't know where to start for my intro, or I don't know what music to put in, or et cetera. And I don't want that to be something that discourages them from taking that first leap.
Definitely. Well, and I would say that I don't know how to put this well, but I would say don't give up. If someone doesn't listen to you the first time because they don't like your intro, truly, if they're meant to listen to your podcast, they will come back around, and they will find you when the time is right. So maybe, you're starting your podcast right now and it's a little rough, but you're out there, you're putting your heart out there, you're trying your hardest, and you're being genuine. Then if they don't like you now, but they're supposed to like you later, they will come back around, and they will eventually find you again and be like, wow, what was I missing? And then they'll listen to your whole back catalog, and it'll be great. So don't not start because you're worried that someone might not like you right now. Just go for it. Just start and work your way into something a little more glamorous, like you said, Genesis.
I like that. And so I'll just add on the back of that, Andi, and I would say your tribe is going to follow you because they resonate with something that you said. They resonate with your personality or your authenticity. If someone does not follow you, don't go chasing that person. It just means that they're not supposed to be in your metaverse. They're not a part of your tribe in this season, or etc. And just like seasons change, we as individuals change and we evolve over time. So give yourself grace and mercy, because if you try to talk to everybody, you talk to no one, is what I've been told. So just just be happy with what you're putting out there into the universe, and the right people who are meant to be on your bandwagon, be a part of your community, be a tribe member, and root for you just like the beehives are rooting for Beyonce. They will be your beehive. So just keep that in mind and just have fun. Like if you have fun with it, you go in there with confidence and you own that crap, like they are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is a man or a woman that is on a mission. And don't take it wrong whenever I say own that crap. I'm not saying that your content is crap. I'm just saying you have to take ownership of the content that you're putting out there, and you have to know that your content is going to resonate with someone, and you don't know who that person is going to share your content with in order to create those domino effects or that ripple effect. So as a cheetah girl say, si se puede, yes you can. So like Nike says, just do it.
Yes, I love that. It's true. I feel like you've got to start somewhere, so just start, and the people that need to find you, they will find you.
So another follow-up question, Andi, and then we're going to go into the call to action section. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about podcasting that you want to interject based on what you're doing in the podcasting space that would be relevant for the audience today?
Sure. I would say if you want to get into podcasts and you're feeling overwhelmed, well, I guess you could listen to my podcast. That's easy. But if you've listened to my podcast and you're still feeling like, man, I just need another podcast. I'm looking for something. I would turn to your friends that like similar things. They like the similar music as you. They like similar movies or books, and ask them what podcast they're listening to, because most likely the podcast that they like will be the podcast that you like. And that can be at least a jumping off point for you to kind of at least have some more options to try out.
Absolutely. That's really great advice. And thank you for adding that. And another thing that I would say is join podcasting communities. Like if you're on the Facebook platform, they have different podcast communities for podcast guests as well as podcast hosts. And people share tips and tricks all the time. So it's also always good to network with people who are in the same area that you're trying to go into and ask them questions. If someone sees that you're genuinely interested, they're going to be willing to help you navigate through some of those rough waters and etc. So now, Andi, let's jump into the call to action. What is your call to action for our audience today regarding all things podcasting?
Okay, I kind of have two. First of all, if you are just looking to get into podcasts, like I was talking about a little bit ago, I would say just try one. Just open up your app. I'm almost positive that there is a podcast app on your phone. You don't even have to download anything, and just try one. Just see what it's like, see how hard it is, because I promise it's not hard, and just see how it feels. I feel like most people think that it's more complicated than it is. So just try a podcast app. Just try a podcast and see how it goes. And then for anyone that wants to start a podcast, I would say, this might sound silly, but I would say hop onto social media of some sort. My favorite right now is TikTok, and type in like podcast tips or something like that, and you will get inundated with tips. So don't follow all of them, but if you need an idea, or if you need a push to start, hop onto social media and you will get all of the pushes that you need and all of the tips that will help make your life easier as a podcaster and help kind of give you that push to just start. And I can't wait to hear all of the podcasts that come out of it.
Amazing. And Andi, how can our community connect with you? What's your website and where do you primarily hang out on social media?
Okay, my website is friendlypodcastguide.com. Pretty straightforward. That's where you can find my latest episode, as well as all of the past episodes that are organized under type, so that if you want like an entertainment podcast, you can just click that button. If you want a kid podcast, click that button. Pretty straightforward. And then the main social media that I hang out on right now is Instagram and TikTok. I've really enjoyed making videos with podcast recommendations or just like how-tos, or I kind of will rant sometimes and be like, moms don't just have to listen to parenting podcasts. They can listen to any kind they want. Because I feel like sometimes moms are pigeonholed into only being able to listen to stuff that will make them a better mom or a better like housekeeper. And that is not what we have to listen to.
I love that. Explain your world, mamas. You aren't supposed to just do all things mamas. You need to have some fun too, girlfriend. So listen to other things that stimulate you. If you want to listen to a relationship podcast, listen to a relationship. If you want to listen to a podcast that spices things up in the bedroom for you and your partner, so you could bring that pizzazz back, listen to that. Listen to something that you want to listen to, and don't feel conditioned to listen to something because you're a mom and you feel like if you don't listen to it, you're not going to be a good mom. News flashes, no one has given us a handbook to be the world's best mom. So YOLO, you only live once, and do your best, and don't allow other people to make you feel less than, because if so, they're not part of your tribe. So Andi, I want to thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on the community and just having a real coffee chat with me and just talking about all things podcasting from one podcaster to another. I'm so glad that we were able to collaborate to create some synergies.
Me too. It was so much fun. I love interviewing podcast hosts, but holy cow, it was fun to be on the guest side.
Thank you. And audience, all of Andi's contact information will be in the show notes. All you need to do is read, scroll on down, and connect with her. This podcast is on 40 plus platforms, so there is a place to listen for everybody. So don't make an excuse. And for those of you interested in seeing the video, we're on YouTube as well. So type GEMS, GEMS, with Genesis Amaris Kemp, and you'll see all things video. And lastly, but not least, where would I be without my supporters? You know, I only think about you. Thank you so much for supporting the guests that I bring into the community, as well as the mission to bring on content that is educational, inspirational, and motivational. Because of you, we're now ranked in the top 2% globally out of 2.8 million podcasts. And you could check the metrics out on www.listennotes.com. So until the next guest, next segment, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day.